Back in elementary school, it had to be about age 6 or 7, I was close friends with this really socially awkward kid named Andrew who had just moved in from out of state. He used to sit alone before my friend and I had introduced ourselves and just talk ever so quietly to himself. But he always appeared to be enraged during the conversations, if you will. The first and only time that I actually went over to his house, I had my friend tag along and we were both going to be spending the night there. Well, the whole day went by and it was all good. It was pretty fun. Andrew seemed different at home, a bit more normal, comfortable. Well, when we were going to sleep, I remember lying there in their basement/bedroom, and Andrew was across the room on a couch and my other buddy Ryan was asleep a few feet away from me on the floor. Andrew started making these eerie noises like a high-pitched but mellow scream, almost like a steaming tea kettle. But then he sits up, and I can only see his outline with how dark it was, but he stands up, still letting this screeching noise out, and I just see his outline walking toward me. So I kick Ryan awake, and he sits up, both of us just freaked out at this point. Andrew walks until he's nearly stepping on us, and just sits down and slowly lets the screech die out. Ryan and I look at each other, not sure what to do, and Andrew just grabbed Ryan's arm, and then mine, and he was squeezing like he was trying to crush it. And in a disturbing low voice, he says, "Scotty wants you both to leave." I rip my arm away, and so does Ryan, and Andrew stands up again, and just stood there, laughing, super high-pitched, staring at us. We both got up, and I suggested going to Andrew's mom's room to wake her the hell up. Before we even took a step, Andrew just screams at the top of his lungs, literally horror movie shit. On hearing the scream, his mom comes sprinting through the house and down the stairs and turns all the lights on. We couldn't tell in the dark, but Andrew ripped his arms up with scratches and he looked all around pale and just not right. His mom laid him on the ground and held him down and was trying to speak over his screams, and she was saying things like, "Scotty isn't real, Andy. You're okay." And she turns to us and tells us to head upstairs and put our coats on so she could take us home. We didn't talk to Andrew at school for the next couple of weeks, but when we asked him about it, he said, "It's okay now. You won't see Scotty anymore. No one will." Needless to say, that was the end of that, and we never talked to him again. So I'm not a parent, but I do have a story about my little cousin and his imaginary friend. First off, let's get into details. My aunt and uncle had just moved into a new house in Orlando, Florida, and my cousin never spoke to this imaginary friend before they moved. Let's call my cousin Kay. I go to their house one day while on vacation because I live in New York, and I'm pretty close to my little cousin because he used to live across the street from me, and I treated him like my brother. He was about 6 years old when this happened, and it still gives me chills. I'm sleeping at their house for a week, and I get this weird vibe coming from their place. The feeling of anxiety, I guess I could say anxiety, I really don't have anything else to compare it to, would always be heightened at around 3 in the morning because I always woke up to my little cousin next to my bed in the attic. The attic was remodeled and turned into a guest bedroom, and he would always tell me about his friend Maury. Naturally, I was freaked out by it, especially since it was always around the same time at night. On the 4th night, I asked his parents about it, and they told me they've never experienced anything like that with him and decided to ask him about it. He said he had no idea what they were talking about. Come the next night at 3 a.m., I try to have a conversation with him, and he keeps repeating 3 words, "Why'd you tell?" over and over again, until I tried to talk to him, and he started telling me about how Maury would appear in his dreams at night and eat dinner with the family when they were at the table. I asked him how he got to meet Maury, and he told me that Maury came up to him and asked him if he could come inside. And he was always a very polite kid, so he said, "Yeah, sure, come in." That's when Maury started to talk to him and would be by his bedside at night talking to Kay. Kay said he enjoyed Maury's company and it made him feel safe. I told his parents the next day and they got pretty scared. They thought I was making it up and didn't believe me. The next and my final night there, I heard some faint thumping under my bed, and at this point I'm scared shitless, but I grew balls and peeked under my bed to find my little cousin there, and these are the last words I heard from him before I got the hell out of that house. "I'm protecting you from Maury. He said he can't trust you and needs you gone. Maury won't hurt me if I protect you." I swear, I ran faster than I ever have before and made it at least 3 blocks down before my aunt and uncle started chasing after me and told me to stop. They asked me what happened and didn't believe me because when we went back upstairs, Kay was in his bed sound asleep. I went back home the next day. Fast forward a few years. I asked Kay if he remembered any of this or of Maury, and he told me he had no idea what I was talking about, and I left it at that. I've never told anyone else besides his parents about this until now. A little after I was born, my sister Julia had an imaginary friend named Jessica. She was Julia's friend for a long time when things started to get a little weird. At first, my parents shrugged it off as a normal occurrence, but after a while, they began to believe that our house was haunted. One night, as my parents put me, about 1 year old, to sleep, I began to cry and point at the corner. My mom was still in there and began to try to comfort me, but I continued to cry and point at the same corner. All of a sudden, my sister walks into my room and points at the corner and yells, "Jessica, stop it!" Immediately, I stop crying, and Julia says like it is completely normal that sometimes Jessica likes to put on scary masks and scare people. My mom, who is understandably freaked out, stammers to my sister, "Tell Jessica that if she can't play nice, she can't play here at all." A couple of weeks go by, and Julia tells my mom that her eyes turn green when she's mad, and her voice gets deeper. My mom didn't know how to respond to this, and just said, "Okay." Eventually, Julia outgrows her imaginary friend and stops playing with her. A year and a half later, my little sister Abby begins to talk. She then goes on to tell us about her friend that no one else can see. She then tells my mom about how her eyes turn green when she's upset. I remember this distinctly because she dropped a pan and it scared me. She asked Abby what her name was and she said, "Jessica."